Discover the incredible truth of Job, what God revealed during the 40 days in the whirlwind. In the land of Uz, during the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, there lived a man named Job. He was blameless and upright, fearing God and shunning evil. Job was blessed beyond measure, possessing abundant wealth, a vast array of livestock, and a household thrumming with life. His 7 sons and 3 daughters were often gathered to feast together, and Job, ever mindful of their souls, offered sacrifices each morning, hoping to cover any unseen sin with the grace of God. His piety echoed through the land, whispering into the distance. Yet, unbeknownst to Job, a divine council was convened in the heavens. Satan stood among the sons of God, questioning the very essence of Job's devotion, insinuating that his faith was tied solely to his prosperity. Does Job fear God for nothing? You have blessed the work of his hands. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. God, confident in Job's righteousness, permitted Satan to test him, setting the stage for an unimaginable trial. In a tempest of calamity, Job's world began to unravel. Messengers arrived, one by one, bearing the shattering news of raiding Chaldeans, fire from heaven consuming his sheep, and fierce winds destroying the house where his children feasted. Job tore his robe and fell to the ground in worship, his heart rent but his spirit still reverent. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away, blessed be the name of the Lord. Then came the torment of physical suffering, as painful boils erupted upon his skin, blisters that seared and agonized him, leaving him scraping his flesh with broken pottery. His wife, a reflection of despair, urged him, "Curse God and die." Yet Job's steadfast heart resisted. He clung to his righteousness amid overwhelming sorrow. His friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, traveled from their distant lands, burdened by compassion and grief. They arrived only to find Job seated on the ash heap, his body a canvas of pain. They mourned silently for 7 days, overwhelmed by his affliction, but their tongues would soon unleash a torrent of unjust accusations and misguided counsel. "Surely, Job, you must have sinned," they contended, as their words tumbled like stones among his battered spirit. Job, in deep anguish, wrestled with the glaring disparity between divine justice and his suffering. He cried out in lament, yearning for an audience with God, struggling to comprehend why he, an upright servant, had been thrust into such despair. Days turned into nights of questioning silence, his prayers echoing through the void as he recounted God's abundant blessings, feeling the absence of his warmth. Then, in a moment that would mark his soul, a tempest roared across the heavens, swirling with divine authority. From within the storm, the voice of God thundered forth, "Where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? Tell me, if you understand." Each question pierced through Job's pain, unlocking the mysteries of creation and divine sovereignty, imploring him to listen and learn amidst trial. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the wrath of the whirlwind, Job found his position before the Creator laid bare, confronting the profound reality of his own limitations. Could it be that through this excruciating journey, God was not merely preparing Job for restoration, but revealing a deeper truth about his character, one that transcended human understanding? As the storm raged on, the questions lingered, drawing Job towards an awakening that would forever reshape his faith. In this crucible of divine dialogue, a revelation awaited, leading toward a profound encounter that would transcend the bounds of suffering, the path to a new understanding of God's unwavering sovereignty and love. Then, as the great tempest howled and the heavens unveiled their might, God continued to speak, commanding the attention of Job and all who would hear his tale. Have you found the place where the sea begins? Or have you walked in the recesses of the deep? Each word resonated like thunder, exposing the depth of Job's ignorance compared to the sprawling knowledge of the Almighty. Job trembled, for he was but a mere man amidst the unfathomable wisdom of God. He realized that the trials he faced were not simply punitive in nature, but an invitation, a summons to realign his understanding of the divine and the world. Each question from God was a revelation of glory, an unveiling of the mysteries that encapsulated creation itself. What is the way to the abode of light? God continued, driving deeper into Job's heart. And where does darkness reside? With these inquiries, God drew forth a profound truth: the divine orchestrator of light and darkness, who governs both joy and suffering, is eternally sovereign. Every flicker of anguish Job endured was woven into a larger tapestry, one far beyond his human perception. In the wake of this celestial discourse, Job's soul writhed and quaked under the weight of his revelations. "I lay my hand upon my mouth," he finally uttered, understanding the futility of his arguments against the Most High. "I spoke of things I did not understand, too wonderful for me to know." His heart began to shift, like a moth drawn toward a flame of newfound understanding and purpose. With a humble posture, he acknowledged the limitations of his human wisdom. "I had heard of you by the hearing of the ear, but now my eye sees you. Therefore, I despise myself, and repent in dust and ashes." The agony of his trial turned to a sacred moment of reconciliation. He found himself enveloped in the unfathomable grace of God, even within the storm. Yet, amid the divine encounter, whispers of disquiet still lingered in the air. Will the resolution of Job's struggle manifest, or would the suffering usher in greater trials, further illuminating the path of faith? The turmoil of his heart wrestled with questions of restoration, and his friends remained, looming silently, plagued by their own unresolved doctrines about divine justice. As Job lay there, the tumult of his spirit gave way to a cautious expectation. Could it be that through his suffering, God would not only reveal his majesty but also extend his mercy? For even in the shadow of despair, there is a flicker of hope, a promise awaiting those who endure. As the storm began to dissipate, and the clouds parted, revealing a dawn of clarity, a new vision was dawning over Job's life. The voice of the Almighty was but the beginning. God desired to restore not only Job's fortunes but to etch his goodness into the annals of a man's heart. "What the enemy intended for harm, I will turn to esteem." The air crackled with anticipation as the sovereign plan unspooled, bringing with it the intertwining destinies of man and Creator, a covenant balm for wounds unseen but deeply felt. Thus, as the tempest quieted, the foundation of hope was being laid, and a divine request remained. What will be the outcome of Job's trials, and how will the tapestry of his faith unfurl in the presence of God's unyielding grace? The dawn held answers yet concealed, beckoning Job and all mankind to seek further into this infinite journey of divine love and appointment. Then, the Almighty continued to unveil his mysteries with a voice that rolled like distant thunder. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know." Each inquiry was laden with divine authority, echoing through the heart of Job, igniting a profound awareness of the vast chasm that lay between human wisdom and heavenly insight. Job's spirit trembled as he began to comprehend the monumental scope of creation's design. "What is man, that you are mindful of him?" he pondered in awe, feeling the burden of his prior questions shrink against the weight of God's omnipotence. He offered no protest, recognizing the grace that flowed from such divine engagement, even amidst suffering. Or who stretched the line upon it? God pressed on, illuminating the intricate details of the earth's formation. On what were its bases sunk, or who laid its cornerstone? With each rhetorical pronouncement, the fabric of Job's understanding was being rewoven. The Creator's deliberate craftsmanship stood in stark contrast to the chaotic emotion that had consumed him. God paused, allowing the tension to linger, before shifting his discourse to the wonders of creation. "Have you commanded the morning since your days began? Have you caused the dawn to know its place?" The imagery filled Job's mind, revealing the daily miracles often overlooked. The sun rising in faithful obedience to its Creator was a testament of God's unfailing sovereignty. Job was overwhelmed with the realization that even the most mundane occurrences were under God's command. "Indeed, I cannot contend with you," he whispered within, understanding that the divine order extended far beyond his anguish and grief. He felt the boundaries of his previous lamentations blur, giving way to a deeper reverence for the one who truly orchestrates the cosmos. "Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spreads its wings toward the south?" God continued, guiding Job to reflect upon the divine wisdom that governed even the fiercest of creatures. Suddenly the grandeur of the Creator's benevolence enveloped Job, illuminating the intricacies of every living being. His heart began to swell with a mix of humility and wonder as he recognized the unfathomable care that God poured over all creation. "Will the fault finder contend with the Almighty?" God questioned, the weight of his voice reverberating in Job's soul. Each syllable cut through the fog of human frustration, beckoning Job to reflect not on his own plight but on the splendor of the Almighty's hand. It was clear, God was guiding Job from despair to purpose. "I have spoken once, and I will not answer twice, but I will ask you, and you will instruct me," Job responded reverently, awash in humility, realizing the importance of submitting to divine wisdom rather than demanding answers for his suffering. As the heavens applauded in silence, the heart of the matter unfolded before him. It was not merely about justice or unanswered questions, it was a call to trust a divine beckoning to revisit the essence of faith. The fading storm clouds mirrored the shadows in Job's own heart, gently dissipating as he prepared for the final unveiling. "Yet, take this to heart," God proclaimed with the power that could alter destinies, "I will restore you, Job." There was a promise wrapped in his voice, a sacred assurance that this chapter of trial would turn into one of testimony. As Job listened, awash in hope and reverence, the truly incredible truth began to dawn. A profound understanding awaited him in the quiet aftermath, a greater revelation about God's sovereign plan that only the dawn of a new day would disclose. How would God complete his work? The world waited, poised on the precipice of divine revelation, eager for the unfolding of glory amidst suffering. Then, in the midst of divine silence, the Almighty spoke again, his voice echoing in the depths of Job's heart like a mighty river drawing all to itself. "Job, do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you set their dominion over the earth?" The question hung in the air, laden with the weight of celestial authority, beckoning Job to gaze beyond the earthly realm into the vast expanse of God's creation. With each word, God began to paint a picture of cosmic wonder. "Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that an abundance of water may cover you? Can you send forth lightning that they may go and say to you, 'Here we are'?" In the flash of divine revelation, Job could feel the spark of the Almighty's artistry, the very power that shaped the universe revealing itself in the dance of the elements. Yet, Job's heart was heavy, for he knew that his human frailty and finite understanding could never grasp the full splendor of God's plans. "But Lord," he whispered, trembling in the face of such majesty, "how can I comprehend the workings of your hand when my soul is in anguish?" As if sensing Job's inner turmoil, God continued, "Who gives the ibis wisdom or gives the rooster understanding? Who can discern the path of the eagle in the sky or the maneuvers of the lion in the battlefield? Do you not see how I clothed the fields with beauty and provided sustenance for the birds?" Each inquiry was a gentle yet profound reminder of God's intimate involvement in even the smallest details of creation. In the richness of these moments, Job's despair started to unravel. Job began to understand that life was woven into a greater tapestry, and even his sufferings were part of a divine narrative. The dimensions of his pain began to broaden, transforming into opportunities for revelation and encounter with God. "Have you entered the treasury of the snow, or have you seen the treasury of the hail, which I have reserved for the time of trouble, for the day of battle and war?" The inquiries now rippled with divine potency, unveiling a purpose in the midst of chaos. Job's spirit began to lift, touched by the notion that even in suffering there was a form of divine preparation, a testing that shaped the heart. "Lord," Job cried out, "I now see a glimmer of your purpose. My afflictions are not absent from your presence, they are known to you." An awakening stirred within him, prompting a cry of lament to shift into a psalm of hope. In the depths of his struggle, he began to recognize the seeds of faith sprouting anew amidst the ashes of despair. The Almighty continued, "Then you shall understand the eternal weight of glory reserved for those who trust in me. Can you understand my purpose beyond the here and now? For with every heartbeat of creation, I reveal a measure of my love, a promise unseen." Job bowed low, filled with awe and humility, as he grasped the magnitude of God's covenant love. He felt the divine stirrings in the atmosphere, the whispers of assurance that he was never without purpose. As this divine dialogue pressed on, the storm finally settled, unveiling the glimmering hope woven within each hardship, preparing Job for the ultimate revelation. "Remember, my servant," God declared with a voice resounding like thunder wrapped in grace. "Your story, like all of creation, is but a chapter in my grand design, and the best is yet to come." Little did Job perceive that a testing of his faith was leading to a witness far greater than his personal trial, a divine promise looming on the horizon. What greater portion of understanding awaited him? The unfolding of God's sovereign plan was set against the backdrop of creation's majesty, just outside the realm of his finite vision. How would it all come together? The heavens held their breath in anticipation, eager for the timeline of divine revelation to manifest. Then God spoke once more, his voice like the sound of many waters, reverberating through the very marrow of Job's being. Brace yourself, Job, like a man of valor, for I will question you, and you shall answer me. The air crackled with divine expectation as Job steadied himself, recognizing the weight of the moment. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Declare, if you have understanding. Each word bore a celestial gravity, compelling Job to look back upon the creation and reflect upon the majesty of the Almighty's handiwork. The memory of the dawn, when the stars sang together and the morning sun was born, surged within him, yet he remained humbled by the enormity of the question. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? The rhetorical inquiries were not mere inquiries of knowledge, they were an invitation to grasp the glory and wisdom of God's sovereignty. Job remained silent, the enormity of his insignificance washing over him like the tide upon the shore. He felt the weight of his burdens, the triviality of his sufferings, as he stood in the shadow of God's eternal design. Or what supports its foundations, or who laid its cornerstone, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? As the words echoed in the silence, Job could envision the celestial assembly rejoicing at the divine orchestration of creation. There, in that cosmic celebration, he began to glimpse the purpose in his pain, the intertwining of suffering and worship. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? With this inquiry, God's voice stirred a sense of divine authority. Job pondered the power by which the Creator ordered the world, a power that flowed through creation moments even into the depths of his own grief and despair. Job became aware of the unceasing dance of the cosmos, the cycles of day and night serving as a testament to God's unyielding faithfulness. Who can lift up the wind in his fists? Who can bind the waters in a garment? Who can establish the boundaries of the seas? The deep questions pressed upon Job, who now grappled with understanding that even the vastness of the ocean was restrained by God's sovereign decree. From the beginning, I have set the limits for you, God declared, and in that moment, Job felt a stirring deep within. It was not merely the acknowledgement of God's power but the revelation that he, too, was protected within those divine boundaries. With the intensity of the conversation rising, Job found himself drawn into the very heart of divine mystery. The enormity of the questions posed before him became a sacred path, leading not only to understanding but also to a profound trust in God's benevolent plans woven throughout all of creation. Can you bring forth the constellation Mazzaroth in their season? Or can you guide the Great Bear with its cubs? The inquiries painted pictures of swirling galaxies and luminous stars, capturing Job's imagination and igniting a flicker of awe in his heart. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars, and spreads its wings toward the south? Each question was a thread in the tapestry of God's creative power, inviting Job into deeper communion with his Creator. As the dialogue unfolded, Job realized that within the vastness of creation and within the depths of his suffering, God was ever present, knitting purpose into his perplexity. An understanding took root within him, a seed of steadfast faith planted in the soil of his anguish, nurtured by divine revelation. Even the very hairs on your head are numbered. Do not fear, therefore, you are of more value than many sparrows, God reminded Job with tenderness amidst the towering truths. The atmosphere trembled with expectancy, a divine pause held the moment, a sacred space pregnant with promise. As Job's heart began to swell with faith, he sensed the unfolding of something far beyond his comprehension, a glimpse of the divine purpose that was intricately being woven through the fabric of his life. What would be revealed next? The anticipation lingered, echoing in the very heavens, for Job had yet to contain the fullness of God's sovereign design. The storm of providence raged in the distance, and unbeknownst to Job, the greatest revelation was still to come. Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that an abundance of water may cover you? The words thundered forth from the Lord like the very tempest that surrounded Job. Each question bore weight, not just upon the earth but within Job's heart, drawing forth the depths of his understanding and challenging his very soul. Will you send out lightnings that they may go and say to you, here we are? Each flicker of divine inquiry stirred within Job the memories of his losses, yet simultaneously opened his spirit to the revelatory truth of God's omnipotence. In the midst of chaos, Job felt the divine orchestration molding his heart toward a new perspective. Who put wisdom in the mind? Or who gave understanding to the heart? The sound of God's voice resonated through him, as Job grappled with the magnitude of wisdom that God possessed compared to his own limited comprehension. The waves of divine knowledge swept over his spirit, washing away remnants of doubt and despair. Who can number the clouds by wisdom? Or who can pour out the bottles of heaven, when the dust hardens into clumps and the clods stick together? These sounds, these images nature's symphony played under heaven's baton came too suddenly, unraveling the intricate tapestry of his circumstance. In this magnificent display of creation and power, Job began to perceive that even his suffering had purpose. It was as if the storm around him represented not just turmoil but also the vessel for God's revelation. A blend of fear and reverence intermingled within him, as Job's heart pressed against the walls of understanding. Can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of the young lions when they crouch in their dens, or lurk in their lairs to lie in wait? The Lord's questions echoed, intertwining life's basic struggles with God's providential care. Job envisioned the wildness of creation, yet feeling the warmth of divine provision. Suddenly, he grasped that every aspect of creation was under the watchful eye of the Creator. Who provides for the raven its prey, when its young ones cry to God, and wander about for lack of food? Job's heart quickened with the recollection of his own sustenance, both physical and spiritual. Each moment of despair had not been overlooked by God, indeed, it had drawn him nearer to his presence. As silence fell, a holy stillness hung in the air. The winds settled and the vastness of the heavens drew close. God's questions were now not merely inquiries, they were invitations into the profound relationship that awaited those who would yield to his sovereignty. Then God spoke again, "Would you discredit my justice? Would you condemn me to justify yourself?" The words pierced the very core of Job's being, compelling him to confront the conflicting emotions within. His heart wrestled with the perceived injustice of his circumstances, but deeper still was the realization that God's purpose encompassed far more than the suffering he bore. Job's countenance shifted. The winds ceased their howling, leaving behind an emptiness filled with the whispers of divine truth. Once a man declaring his innocence and wanting answers, now he stood humbled before the Almighty, realizing that perhaps answers were not what he needed. "Thus, you see, Job, I am a God who loved you before the foundations of the earth, even as you walk through the valleys to purify your heart." With these words resonating in his spirit, Job found himself enveloped in divine mystery, sensing that there was yet another revelation to come. The promise of understanding remained tantalizingly close, but the fullness of God's plan was still hidden, wrapped in glory and unfolding amid his trials. For in the very heart of his suffering, the threads of destiny were weaving together a story that transcended understanding, a wondrous tapestry that held within it the promise of greater things yet to unfold. What divine purposes awaited, and what would God reveal about the nature of his glory? The answer loomed just beyond, yet shrouded in the depths of his eternal wisdom. Then the Lord continued, speaking out of the whirlwind, "Gird up your loins like a man, I will question you, and you shall declare to me." Job felt the weight of this challenge settle upon him. The very air trembled with the authority of the Creator's voice, demanding not merely answers, but a readiness to engage in the divine inquiry. His heart quaked as he stood before the Almighty, feeling both small and significant, knowing he was called to respond in the presence of such majesty. "Will you disannul my judgment? Will you condemn me, that you may be justified?" The Lord's words resounded like the rolling thunder. Each syllable carried the gravity of eternity, shaking the foundations of Job's understanding. In this moment, Job was acutely aware that the Creator's ways were beyond the capacity of human wisdom to comprehend. Have you an arm like God? Can you thunder with a voice like His? With each question, the very elements of creation seemed to reverberate. The mountains bowed low, the valleys held their breath, for now, the Lord was unfolding truths layered beneath the fabric of existence itself. Job fell silent, wrestling internally, feeling a torrent of emotions stir within him: confusion, fear, and a burgeoning awe as he recognized the might of God. His thoughts drifted toward the mighty beasts God had made, the immense structures of nature he had observed, and he reflected, "I am but a vapor, a fleeting whisper in the grand chorus of creation. Dress for action, let your fury be like the tempest, and let your compassion be like the deep." The words flowed like an unending river from God's lips, as he painted visions of his sovereign power. "Look at Behemoth, which I made as I made you, it eats grass like an ox. Behold, its strength is in its loins, and its power is in the muscles of its belly." Job's mind raced at the imagery of this great creature, instilling a sense of the wildness of God's creations, a glimpse of the untamed aspects of his power and purpose. "Can you catch it like a fish with a hook, or tie down its tongue with a cord?" Job trembled at the reality that the one who spoke was the sovereign Lord over all, not just of mankind but of all creation. With each question, Job was being drawn away from his personal suffering into the expanse of God's sovereign rule over all things. Is it by your understanding that the hawk soars and spreads its wings toward the south? Is it at your command that the eagle mounts up and makes its nest on high? The vivid imagery painted in Job's heart revealed the intricate care of the Almighty for every creature, and in that, Job began to grasp the depth of his own providential care. As God spoke, Job's perspective began to pivot. The fog of grievance was lifting. God's grandeur was coming into view, a dawning realization that perhaps his trials were the backdrop for something far more profound. At that moment, Job understood in his spirit that his experiences were not isolated sorrows but intertwined with God's eternal narrative revealing his character, his justice, and the unfathomable depths of his love for creation. And then came the culminating truth like a sun breaking through the storm. Can you not see, Job, that in your anguish lies the template through which many shall witness my glory? Job's heart surged with a newfound understanding, for it became clear that through his pain, there was a pathway for revelation yet to come, a glimpse into the grandeur of God's tapestry for humanity. As the winds rustled and the storm whispered around him, the final words of the Lord lingered in the air, pregnant with promise, for even in the whirlwind, I am at work, weaving a story that transcends time, and through your trials, the faith of many shall be strengthened. What awaited in this divine unfurling? An intricate reflection of God's plans that would resonate through the ages, revealing a deeper purpose within the heart of Job's suffering. The journey had only just begun, an unfolding revelation of redemptive purpose lay beckoning just beyond the horizon. Now, behold, I will continue to speak, the Lord declared with a voice that stirred the very heavens. You have seen the strength of Behemoth, now look at Leviathan, that great serpent of the deep, which I have made to play in the waters of the world. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook or snare his tongue with a rope? As Job listened to the mention of Leviathan, a shiver traveled down his spine. The imagery invoked the ferocity of the ocean, its untamed fury a testament to God's creation. Who can stand before its might? The Lord asked, his tone shifting as if an entire realm echoed in suspense. Who can challenge the terror of its presence? Job cringed at the thought. He remembered the restless waves that smashed against the rocky shores, and in them, he saw the power of the Lord reflected. The enormity of the beast smoked through his mind, igniting awareness that every creature adorned the tapestry of God's plan. Lay your hand upon it, remember the battle and never do it again. The Lord continued, compelling Job to reckon with the vastness of his creation. For you would not forget the encounter, nor would you try to intimidate the very embodiment of calamity. The words struck like arrows of truth piercing Job's heart. In that moment, a profound revelation blossomed. Job realized how grand God's purposes were, how deeply intertwined within the very essence of turmoil and the seemingly chaotic moments of life were the avenues of divine truths yet to be unveiled. It was a lesson of humility, of surrender, and a reminder of the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom. Who has preceded me, that I should repay him? God continued, each word a declaration of authority. Whatever is under the whole heaven is mine. There echoed a promise that rang true, weaving reassurance with every intonation. God's sovereignty covered everything, including Job's darkest nights, and every moment of grief placed within the remnant of his perfect design. Job fell to his knees, sensing the magnitude of what he was hearing, his soul churning as shadows of doubt began to fade before the light of truth. I know not the depths of your wisdom, O Lord, Job cried out, desperation pressed against his chest, yet a flicker of faith ignited within. You alone know the paths of the ocean and the boundaries of the sea. Indeed, Job, the Lord replied, his voice reverberating through the skies, warm yet mighty. What is seen is but a shadow compared to all that I orchestrate. Even darkness is as light to me, and every heartache will yield to grace in due time. In that moment, Job began to see that even within his suffering, God's majestic plan was unfolding. The struggle, the pain, each tear shed was not in vain, but rather a vessel to carry forth divine purpose. God was stirring, breathing life into a haven of hope hidden within the storms. Job, speak, and let your voice join the chorus of the creatures I have made. The Lord commanded, drawing Job's attention back to himself. Let your faith rise as the sun rises with the dawn. With renewed strength, Job raised his hands towards the vast sky, emboldened by the Lord's words. Even the fierce waves crashed in a rhythm that seemed to echo his soul's awakening. The assurance surged through him like the first flash of light upon the waters, promising a dawn that would unveil the beauty of God's redemptive plan. Yet, within the vortex of God's revelation, a lingering question fermented: what else lies beyond this moment, hidden in the fabric of eternity? What further wonders shall be unveiled in the days that stretch before me? And as the winds howled anew around him, Job recognized the tantalizing mystery of God's presence. More profound truths awaited, woven into the very essence of his being, and the narrative of all creation, mysteries unanswered, yet beckoning him to walk deeper into the heart of God. Who are you to question my counsel? The Lord continued, each word breathing life into the vast atmosphere. Is it through your wisdom that the eagle soars, or by your understanding that the hawk takes flight? Job listened intently, each inquiry swelling within him a deeper sense of both awe and humility. Do you decree the seasons? Can you call forth the storm and command the clouds? Oh, my creation craves the raindrops that come from my hand. The Lord's voice held an authority that compelled the very elements to answer. Job shivered, realizing that his trials were but a flicker in the scope of God's grand narrative. Behold, as I set forth the constellations in their place, God said, and Job could almost perceive the stars twinkling as if in acknowledgement. Who do you think illuminates the night sky? Is it not I who gives light even amidst the darkest of trials, enabling those who earnestly seek to find hope? Job's heart swelled with bittersweet recognition. Every tragedy had felt like a turning point, yet in the scope of God's creation, they were merely threads in an intricate tapestry. Each gaze towards the heavens became a prayer, a silent yearning for comprehension. With every creature I have formed, with every ocean and mountain, I have generated an exquisite balance, the Lord continued, reminding Job of the ebb and flow of life. And you, Job, are a part of this divine symphony. Are you not reminded that the book of life is written in moments of despair as much as in moments of grace? Job's spirit stirred as he considered these words. Was it possible that even in agony, the hand of God was sculpting something beautiful from the ashes? His mind raced through memories of laughter, of love, of companionship, and of deep suffering. Which moments defined his life? Answer me, Job, where were you when I laid the earth's foundations? The question rolled like thunder, reverberating against the landscape of Job's heart. Let you proclaim if you are equipped to know the end from the beginning. I am but dust and ashes, O Lord, Job replied, conviction washing over him. I have spoken of things I do not understand, things too wonderful for me, and yet in my heart I long to know your plan. Then listen, and I shall reveal unto you, the Lord answered, quieting every tumult in Job's heart. What you deem as suffering may be my greatest canvas. What you define as chaos I align with purpose. The dawn has not yet fully come, but light shall break through the veil. As a sudden calm enveloped the storming winds, Job felt the pressure of the unanswered mysteries lift, replaced by a profound expectancy. His eyes gazed upwards, his heart now abandoned to God's sovereign grace. Reflect upon the mysteries I have built within creation. Know this, the world you perceive stands upon the foundation of unseen realms, and even your trials shall echo into eternity, reflecting divine glory. Therein lies the promise that all shall work together for good to those who love me and are called according to my purpose. At the mention of purpose, hope burgeoned within Job anew, enabling him to imagine the ramifications of this promise. What would it mean for his life, his losses, his longings? God's craftsmanship was perhaps more profound than any analogy or metaphor could convey, yet, a deeper question loomed within the fabric of his heart. What greater design, O Lord, awaits revelation? What is the end of this suffering? What breaks the silence of night? In those sacred moments, a revelation approached, veiled yet radiant, like the dawn peeking over the horizon of his despair. The Lord's voice beckoned him to anticipate yet greater wonders, hinting at depths unfathomable. Hold fast, dear Job, for in the midst of trials are seeds of great hope to be sown, waiting for a harvest to burst forth. And in this story, you are but a part of my unfolding narrative, an eternal covenant of grace and redemption awaiting its fullness. As the skies began to clear, Job realized that the answer to his unanswered questions was not found in the understanding of suffering, but rather in trusting the faithfulness of God's overarching plan, an intricate masterpiece woven throughout the ages, waiting to reveal itself in all its divine glory. In the hush following the whirlwind, God's voice reverberated in Job's heart, a sacred rhythm echoing the profound truth of his purpose. Job, behold my creation, every facet of it reflects my glory, your tribulations included. Amidst the backdrop of swirling tempest, Job watched as the remnants of his despair fluttered like autumn leaves before a gentle breeze. The clarity of divine insight began washing over him, illuminating the contrasts between cosmic majesty and human frailty. As he knelt in reverence, Job felt a deep stirring within and awakening to the truth of God's covenant love that enveloped him even in anguish. Indeed, Lord, Job proclaimed, who can fathom the depths of your wisdom? What is man, that you are mindful of him? Each question posed by God became a thread within the grand tapestry of his life, weaving strands of pain and glory into a magnificent design that transcended his understanding. I now see, Lord, that my suffering is not merely infliction, Job continued with a voice that trembled with humility, but a passageway to something far more glorious. He grasped the magnitude of life's intricate balance, the trials that refine the spirit and the joys that uplifted, both integral to the narrative of divine redemption. God responded with warmth through the stillness enveloping Job. Yes, my faithful servant, for in the furnace of affliction, gold is purified. The very fabric of your being has been forged in the fires of trial, shaping a testimony that shall carry forth my praise. With every word, the weight upon Job's heart began to lift, revealing the hope hidden amidst the pain. As the skies brightened, the full breadth of God's plan unveiled before Job, as sunbeams breaking through the storm's remnants. Therefore, I shall restore unto you, God declared, not just what was lost, but multiplied blessings beyond your expectation. In those promises, Job felt a surge of hope and recovery, the chains of his suffering transforming into a mantle of strength. Blessed be your name, O Lord, Job chanted, knowing that his heart had shifted from despair to renewed faith. You have taken my mourning and turned it into dancing, you have clothed me with joy. His tears, once bitter with loss, now shone with a brilliance born from revelation, a recognition that God's sovereignty prevailed through the shadow. Watch closely, my servant, my plans are unfurling, the Lord explained graciously. The lives touched by your perseverance, the hope rekindled in the hearts of many, this is the legacy of your trials. Job stood, heart ablaze with gratitude, as he envisioned generations drawing strength from his story of faith, a beacon in the night illuminating the darkness, and so it was that God restored Job's fortunes twofold, granting him new prosperity and renewing his family. His daughters became the most beautiful in the land, and Job celebrated with feasts, offering thanksgiving for the blessings of life, reminding all who gathered of God's faithful love and the power of endurance. As Job looked out upon the fields vibrant with crops and the laughter of family resounding in the air, he could not help but marvel at how far he had traveled. Where anguish once resided, now danced redemption, new life birthed in the ashes of despair, a testament to God's unwavering grace. In reverence, Job worshipped before the Lord once more. You are my Redeemer, my stronghold, my refuge, he proclaimed. In every season, you remain faithful. Thus, the story of Job became immortalized, a testament echoing through the annals of time, reminding generations of God's unrelenting purpose and his promises fulfilled. May we, like Job, sit in humble awe, trusting with unwavering faith in the one who holds the tapestry of our lives, weaving trials and triumphs into a divine narrative of grace. For when we encounter the whirlwind, we see not just chaos, but the artistry of the Creator, crafting something beautiful from our grief, inviting us to join in His eternal song. If this powerful transformation and revelation blesses you, then you need to subscribe immediately to our channel. Don't miss the next powerful biblical stories that will uplift your spirit and deepen your faith. Leave a like now to spread God's word through the algorithm and help others witness His glory. Share your personal reflections in the comments and let us know how Job's story has impacted your faith journey. Now is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Don't wait even one more second. Be a vessel of hope, leading others into the light of God's promises.